Nelly, if you, yeah, okay. So, good evening to everybody who are with us today and those who will be watching video. Oh, we have a new participant. So, good evening to everybody that are in here. For those of you who haven't been here and this is their first time, then welcome to the Hayek School. My name is Dan Kaufmann. I'm a research assistant professor at University of Utah, Department of Neurology. And I also have a private practice where I help people with that are suffering from migraines and tension type headaches, along with other chronic pain conditions, using very different techniques from biofeedback and hypnosis and large area of other techniques. And what we're going to do today, that each and every month, the fourth week of the month, we're giving kind of a workshop format. So this is not going to be a lecture. This is actually going to be a hands-on practice, that the essence of this meetings at the fourth week of the month is to provide tools and techniques for migraine management, and all the tools that I'm teaching during these sessions are fairly easy to use, so that people can actually take them and use them immediately after the session. And this is why the session is going to be less talking and more practicing and questions and so forth. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about autogenic training, and I'm just going to share my screen. Again, the lecture portion of this session is fairly short, but before I continue, just if people can give me like a thumbs up, or if they can click on the thumbs up icon, just to make sure that everybody can see my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up. Okay, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
So, wonderful. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about autogenic training for pain reduction. And I'm going to start by showing you a little bit about autogenic training. What I want to say is that personally, I love autogenic training, and the people that I showed that to were really very, very happy and really took that to their lives and saw the benefits from that. Unfortunately, autogenic training is not well known in North America. It is very much well known in Europe and also in Japan. For some reason, maybe because the origin was in Germany, it just didn't kind of catch in North America. But I'm actually going to be doing a course here in Salt Lake City to teach. This is a 10-week course about autogenic training. And today I just wanted to give a taste of autogenic training and some useful techniques that can help the participants. So let's start a little bit with history, or what is autogenic training. So autogenic training is considered one of the oldest biobehavioral techniques that has been known and used. And as far as I'm concerned, autogenic training is like the marriage between mindfulness and self-hypnosis. And as you're going to experience, autogenic training has both in that technique. And it's also derived from the Greek word autos and genus, and that can be translated to either a self-exercise or self-induction therapy. I think that predominantly in autogenic training, what is important is that the person can self-regulate on their own. And what is the importance of autogenic training is that the person is not relying on the therapist. They're able to create that state of self-regulation using the practices of autogenic training. And of course, it's important to mention that autogenic training was first developed by Johannes Schultz. And he developed that in the 1920s. He was a neurologist, and he was actually looking and seeing that patients that were able to induce these really deep form of deep relaxation those patients also reported that they're able to not just induce this deep relaxation, but this deep relaxation also had a lot of recuperating effects. So nowadays, we have more research into autogenic training to know that the properties of autogenic training is very, very important in self-regulation of the autonomic system. And so in a lot of cases, especially in pain disorders or anxiety disorders, autogenic training is a wonderful tool, especially, and this is just from my experience, especially for those people who have the chatter brain, you know, when we have the, we can't stop the brain and we keep having this inner chatter. For those people especially, I found that autogenic training is very much a lifesaver. Maybe it's because of the way that autogenic training is being done. And usually autogenic training is considered a psychophysiological way of self-control or an ability to self-regulate. Now, I want to emphasize autogenic training is not specifically intended as a relaxation practice, even though a lot of people consider autogenic training to be relaxation, but the essence of autogenic training is self-regulation, self-regulation of emotions, of physiology, self-regulation of our autonomic system. But of course, that the result of practice of autogenic training exercises is having an experience of relaxation. What is occurring generally in the autogenic training practice is that every individual first start by relaxing their bodies and making sure that they are mindfully aware of their bodies and following specific formulas in a specific order, and thereby just noticing how the repetitive formula that the autogenic training practitioner repeats in their mind is able to create a physiological change. There are 10 formulas, either 6 basic formulas and other version, like the version that I was trained in, have actually a 10 formula. There's also other formulas that we use in which we repeat a specific formula in our minds, thereby creating a physiological shift. And that is the essence of the autogenic training practice. Now, what are the guidelines or what is needed to do when we're actually practicing autogenic training? So the first of all, we need to prepare for practice. And it's important when we do the autogenic training practice to make sure that we're reducing any environmental stimulation. We want to practice in a quiet place, no phones, no TV, no people around or pets or anything that can distract us, because the whole essence of autogenic training is a mindful awareness. And if we get distracted, then usually we can't do the exercise very well. Usually when we do the practice, it's encouraged to remove shoes, remove any tight clothing like tight belts, or if our pants are too tight, it might be better to use different kinds of pants. Also, if people are wearing glasses, at least at the beginning, it is encouraged to take glasses off, just so that nothing is going to distract ourselves when we do the actual practice. However, I'm very much aware that especially people with migraine, they might have sunglasses at any time of the day. So if you need to have your glasses on, please feel free to do so. And there are several positions for relaxation that I'm going to cover in the next slide before we begin. After we're fully prepared for the practice, the essence of autogenic training we call mindful awareness. Some people call it passive concentration. I don't like passive concentration because there is a problem in that definition. So I want to refer to the practice as a mindful awareness practice. And what is important in that practice is that it's effortless state, that we're focusing passively and putting our attention on a specific task. That said, the most important thing is to adopt an accepting and non-striving attitude, meaning we are not making things happen. We don't want to exert things, or we don't want to exert will in the practice. We just really want to allow things to happen and really just let things happen all by itself. The minute that we catch ourselves in wanting to get a result, this is where we need to stop and kind of go back and really keep adopting this just awareness, mindful awareness, and kind of really allowing things to happen. And it's also important to know that in autogenic training, we focus on the process, not on the outcome. So the first formula that we're going to learn today, which is heaviness, and I'm going to teach you how to say to yourself, for example, my right arm is heavy. So once we repeat that formula in our mind's eye, we really want to make sure that we just pay attention to the arm without actually making or wanting the arm to be heavy. It is really just to be mindfully aware of whatever is it that we're experiencing. Next is we're making mental connection with every body part and function. So it's very important in autogenic training just to be mindful and be aware of our bodies, wherever is it that we focus on, and really just pay attention to what is happening there. What are the sensations there? What are the feelings there? Without judgment, without it's good or it's bad or it's wrong or right. Just really pay attention and allow everything to just be there. After we're making a mental contact, we usually start the autogenic training with a body scan that we're going to do in a minute. And after we complete a body scan, which is relatively short, we're repeating an exercise formula in our minds 6 times. Important, when we repeat the formula, we can either do that silently or out loud. It's up to everybody who practices that. Usually people prefer to do that silently in their mind's eye. The repetition needs to be slow, not fast, so that really we're able to be mindful of the formula and mindful of the body part that we're focused on. And we want to use a monotone voice because the essence is actually self-regulation. We don't want to be too jumpy, and we just really want to just repeat the formula calmly using a monotone voice. And after we've done all of that, we're just closing. So the closing is gently wiggling the fingers and toes, doing a big stretch in our bodies, maybe taking a breath and opening our eyes. So this is pretty much the sequence that occurs in an autogenic training exercise. Now let's go and see, when we talk about preparing for practice, let's look at the positions that are intended for relaxation. But before that, I just want to say that a lot of people consider the autogenic state after we're doing the exercise to be kind of between wake and sleep. I'm not exactly awake, but I'm definitely not asleep. It's kind of in between. So this is the experience that a lot of people report when they're actually doing the autogenic training practice. So what are the positions that are recommended when we do autogenic training? One of them is the armchair position. And in that, what is important is to make sure that if you use an armchair with a back of the chair, is to sit all the way back and make sure that the spine is actually supported. The head, usually if the back of the chair is tall enough, you can lean your head against the chair or a cushion if you prefer. And if not, then make sure that your head is just comfortably erect and positioned on your on your shoulders. Feet are usually flat on the ground. If you have shoes, it's preferable, as I mentioned, to take shoes off. And the angle from the knees to the feet is more than 90 degrees. So pretty much make sure that your feet are a little further away so that they're not in a 90 degrees angle. They're a little farther away on the floor. The arms are next to you, either resting on the armchair or you can put them on the thighs. Make sure that the palms are facing down. However, in some cases, especially when we're doing a long a long sequence of exercise, sometimes if we just let our palms kind of rest, it's like the blood can just kind of stay there, and we can experience some tingling. We don't want that, so maybe put the palms on the armchair or on your thighs if that feels better. The horizontal position, if people prefer to lie down on a floor or on a bed, that's also possible. So just lying flat on the bed or floor, but use a small cushion under the head. And some people prefer just to do that because it's more comfortable. The legs are usually straight. In some other form of exercises, we say not to lock the feet. And again, I'm not saying to lock the feet, to lock the feet themselves, but just make sure that the legs are reasonably straight. The toes are pointing upwards and outwards. So it's like if these are my toes, they're kind of upwards, but towards the ceiling. And the arms are resting by the side of the body. The palms are down, and the palms are not touching the body. And also make sure that if your palms, don't put your palms like that, make sure that there's a little bit of a difference between the fingers and the palms are facing down. And there's the last the last position, which is called the Coachman position. That position is usually a lot of people who practice autogenic training like that. And that is used when we don't have a chair with a back, or we don't have any support to our chair. And I'm just going to demonstrate, if people can see me, that usually when we don't have any back to the chair, what the Coachman position is that we actually let our head just kind of fall and our back just completely be relaxed. And that is the way that we're doing the autogenic training practice. And the reason we call it the Coachman is because, when a coachman is looking for passengers and passengers are not coming, this is how they sleep. So we're sitting towards the front of the chair. The legs are comfortably apart, just like we said in the armchair position. The angle is more than 90 degrees, as we said, but we're allowing the back and the neck to relax. So if we want to use an analogy, it's like if I had a string going through the top of your head, through your spine on the back, and if I kind of suspended yourself through that string and your body's erect, now imagine that I cut the string and your back and head is just kind of flopping down, just in a gently forward position. This is the Coachman position that I know that a lot of people like to do when they do the autogenic training exercise. So without further ado, there are 2 more slides, but I want to first have us practice and then get back to the slide to reiterate the point. So I'm going to stop sharing right now, and we're going to start the practice right now. Nelly, with the practice, I would prefer that the recording would be off.